Hello everyone and welcome to my portfolio for Instructional Technology 2 winter term. So I just want to go over a reflection basically for each week that we went through. And in week 1 we did backwards design. And we worked on this project, and even though the majority of the educational field no longer believes in learning styles, I included it in my lesson because I feel that it's important for each person to know how they learn best. And so that's why I focused on that. Week 1 was a very informative beginning to an incredible term. Um, in week 2, we worked on learning outcomes. And for this week, I took the work completed in week 1 and expanded on the learning objectives to display clear and measurable outcomes for the lesson. Um, I did this using a Powtoon animation, and that was really fun to create. Week 2 showed me that it's not enough to just come up with goals or learning outcomes for students. In order to help students succeed, we have to ensure that the outcomes are not only clear, concise, and measurable, but also creative and engaging. Um, in week three, we expanded further the development of the original lesson plan and learning outcomes from the previous weeks. And I added content and activities, and although I struggled this week, I learned, and that's what's really important. Given more time, there are some changes I would make to this particular project, but as you'll see in future work, I learned important lessons in the first few weeks of the course. Moving on to week 4. In week 4, we were asked to create principles of engagement, and I must say this week was one of my favorites because it required me to think more critically and less about technology. This week allowed me to take a small break from the technological frustration of the text box on a website that just won't stay in the right spot, to imagining what I believe to be factors in engaging students in learning. After all, creating lifelong learners is my goal. Moving on to week 5. In week 5, we worked on a multi-module set of staged assignments, and this week I expanded a learning outcome from an earlier week. The valuable part of this week for me came when I realized I really do enjoy this type of design, especially because this particular week forced us as educators to create assignments with no face-to-face components. This week was all technology-based. Okay, moving on to week 6. Week 6 was pretty interesting. Again, we were asked to create a set of assignments, but this time the assignments were aimed at collaborative work. I enjoyed this week because it allowed me to take a project I had already created and shape it into one that would foster better learning in group settings. And this one was created using Powtoon, and I don't know, I really liked the theme too. That was pretty fun. Okay, moving on to week 7. Okay. Week 7, we were asked to create principles of creativity. After careful research, each of us chose things we deemed important for fostering creativity. Like the engagement principles in week 4, this week really expanded my ideas about creativity, its importance in education, and how to foster it in our students. This was also done using Powtoon. It was also pretty interesting to create. Okay, moving on to week 8. And this assignment in week 8, I put underneath my engagement principles. This portfolio is getting quite large. I didn't think it was going to be so big, but after a cumulative of 2 terms, it's gotten pretty big. So in week 8, we were asked to compare, contrast, and critique 2 models to instructional design. Honestly, this is one of the weeks that I could have spent much more time on developing and tinkering. At the end of the day, or the term for us, I want to remind myself to step further out of my all too cozy comfort zone. Right, and moving on to last week. Last week, we all developed specific aspects of learning we find crucial to instructional design. This was an important week too. If I had the opportunity to do it again, I would create a different project, one that looks less like a presentation and feels more like a conversation. And that's what I want to leave all of you with today. The encouragement to step further out of your comfort zones, if not just for yourself, for your students. And I think that's been the greatest lesson this term for me, as well as my goal for next term. Next term, there'll be more videos and more screencasts and less presentation type projects. So that is the end. Thank you guys so much. It's been an awesome term, and I can't wait to see what next term holds. Bye, guys.